I stopped by my mom's book club at her friend's house. The friend answered the door and said, "Your mother's upstairs with the others. The grief support group has been so helpful for her since your father died. My father is alive and at home, so I decided to play along. The woman at the door was crying, actual tears streaming down her face as she looked at me with this expression of profound sympathy that made my stomach twist. "Oh, honey," she said, reaching out to squeeze my arm. "You must be David. Your mother talks about you constantly, how you've been so strong through all of this, how you held her hand at the funeral. I'm so sorry for your loss." I stood on the porch of this stranger's house in Evanston, Illinois, holding a canvas tote bag with 3 bottles of wine I'd picked up because my mom had texted me that morning asking me to drop them off at her book club. The autumn air smelled like wood smoke and wet leaves. It was 6:47 p.m. on a Thursday in October, and this woman, mid-50s with kind eyes and a cardigan covered in cat hair, was telling me my father was dead. My father, who I'd had breakfast with that morning. My father, who'd complained about the Bears losing again and asked me to help him install new gutters this weekend. My father, who was very much alive and probably sitting in his recliner right now watching Jeopardy. My brain did that thing where it short-circuits trying to process contradictory information, like when you bite into what you think is a chocolate chip cookie and it's actually raisin. Except instead of mild disappointment, I felt like I'd stepped into an alternate dimension. "Thank you," I managed to say. My voice sounded distant, mechanical. "It's been difficult." The woman, whose name I still didn't know, nodded vigorously. "Of course it has. Losing someone so suddenly. Your mother said it was a heart attack? Just collapsed in the garage?" "Yes," I heard myself say. "Very sudden." Come in. The group is upstairs in my meditation room. I'm Donna, by the way. Donna Kleinfeld. Your mother and I met at the first session 6 months ago. We've become so close through all of this. 6 months. My father had supposedly been dead for 6 months. I followed Donna through her house, past family photos and a grandfather clock that chimed 7 times, up a carpeted staircase to the 2nd floor. My hands were sweating against the canvas bag. I could hear voices from behind a closed door, soft murmuring punctuated by occasional sobs. "They're just wrapping up," Donna whispered. "You can wait in the hallway, or would you like to join? Sometimes family members attend. It might help with your grief." I'd been working as a software engineer at a startup in Chicago for 8 years when this happened. Good job, decent salary of $130,000 annually, the kind of stable career that made my parents proud. I was 34, unmarried, lived alone in a condo in Lincoln Park. My relationship with my parents was normal, or what I'd always thought was normal. Weekly dinners on Sundays, phone calls every few days, help with home repairs and tech support, the usual parent-adult-child dynamic. My mother, Patricia Lansing, was 62. A retired elementary school teacher who'd spent the past 5 years volunteering at the library and attending various clubs and groups. Book club, gardening club, cooking class, grief support group, apparently. My father, Robert Lansing, was 65, recently retired from his job as a civil engineer. He spent most days doing projects around the house, going to the gym, playing golf with his buddies. They'd been married for 39 years. Seemed happy, or at least content. No major problems I knew about. No reason for my mother to pretend my father was dead. "I'll wait out here," I told Donna. "I don't want to interrupt." She patted my shoulder again and disappeared into the meditation room. I stood in the hallway, heart hammering against my ribs, trying to figure out what the hell was happening. Through the door, I could hear my mother's voice. The hardest part is waking up and forgetting for just a moment. Then reality crashes back, the empty side of the bed, the coffee cup I still accidentally pour for him. Other voices murmured sympathy. Someone said something about their own loss. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and texted my dad. "Hey, what are you up to?" 3 dots appeared immediately. "Watching Jeopardy? Why? Need something?" I stared at that message for a long moment, my very alive father, responding from our family home. Not dead, not buried, not mourned, except apparently he was being mourned by my mother and an entire grief support group who believed he'd died 6 months ago. "No reason. Just checking in," I typed back. "Love you, bud. See you Sunday for dinner?" "Yeah, see you Sunday." The meditation room door opened. Women filed out, tissues in hands, eyes red. They looked at me with recognition and sympathy. One squeezed my hand. Another whispered, "Your mother is such a strong woman." My mother was the last one out. She saw me and froze. Just for a second, her face went completely blank. Then the mask slammed back into place and she smiled, sad and brave. "David, what are you doing here?" I held up the wine bag. "You asked me to drop these off. For book club?" She took the bag, looked inside. "Oh, right. Thank you, honey." The other women had moved downstairs. I could hear them talking in the living room, the sound of coffee being poured. My mother and I stood in the hallway, alone. "Book club," I said quietly. "You told me this was book club." "It is. We read books about grief and healing." "Dad's alive, Mom." Her smile didn't waver. Didn't even flicker. "I don't know what you're talking about." The woman who answered the door. Donna. She told me how sorry she was for my loss. How helpful this grief support group has been since Dad died. She must have confused me with someone else. She knew my name. She knew details. She said you told her Dad had a heart attack in the garage 6 months ago. My mother's eyes were steel, cold and hard and completely unreadable. I think you misunderstood something. Let's go downstairs, have some coffee. I texted Dad 5 minutes ago. He's home watching Jeopardy. Then you know he's fine, so there's no issue. She started down the stairs. I grabbed her arm. Mom, what the hell is going on? She turned back, and for just a second I saw something flicker across her face. Anger? Fear? Then it was gone. We'll discuss this at home, not here. She pulled her arm free and descended the stairs with perfect composure. I followed, my mind racing through possibilities. Mental break? Early dementia? Some elaborate con? None of it made sense. Downstairs, my mother said goodbye to the other women with hugs and promises to see them next week. She took the wine bag. We walked to our cars in the driveway. Follow me home, she said. We need to talk. I did. Drove through familiar streets in a daze, following my mother's silver Toyota Camry to the house where I'd grown up. The house where my father was alive and well. When we pulled into the driveway, my father's blue Chevy truck was there, lights on inside. Everything normal, except nothing was normal. Inside, my father was indeed watching Jeopardy, feet up, reading glasses perched on his nose. He looked up when we came in. Hey, didn't expect you tonight, David. Everything okay? I looked at my mother. She was taking off her coat, hanging it in the closet, acting like this was completely routine. Robert, she said calmly. David knows about the group. My father's face went blank, the same expression my mother had worn upstairs at Donna's house. What group? The grief support group, where I've been telling people you're dead. She said it so matter-of-factly, like she was talking about the weather or what we were having for dinner. My father set down the remote, took off his glasses, rubbed his eyes. Ah, shit. That was it. No denial, no explanation, just acknowledgement. I stood in the living room of my childhood home, looking at my parents, and felt reality tilting sideways. Someone want to explain what the fuck is going on? I asked. My father gestured to the couch. Sit down, son. This is going to take a minute. I sat. My parents looked at each other, some silent communication passing between them. Finally, my mother spoke. It started as a mistake. She explained it in this calm, rational tone that made the insanity of it somehow worse. 6 months ago, she'd been at the library volunteering when she met a woman named Barbara, whose husband had recently died. They'd talked, connected. Barbara had invited her to a grief support group. I don't know why I went, my mother said. Curiosity, maybe, or loneliness. Your father was always so busy with his golf and his projects. I felt invisible. At the first meeting, someone had asked about her loss, and instead of explaining she wasn't actually grieving, my mother had panicked and said her husband had died suddenly. Heart attack. Very tragic. I was going to tell them the truth at the next meeting, she said, but then they were so kind, so supportive. They listened to me talk about my feelings in a way no one had in years, and it felt good, really good. So she'd kept going, kept lying, invented details about my father's death, the funeral, the grief, and my father had known the whole time. You knew? I looked at him, incredulous. The whole 6 months you knew she was telling people you were dead? He shrugged. It seemed harmless, made her happy. She was getting something she needed from those meetings. Harmless. I laughed, a sharp bark of disbelief. You don't think there's anything wrong with this? With lying to strangers about death? With creating an entire false narrative? They're not strangers anymore, my mother said. They're my friends. They care about me. They care about a lie. They think they're supporting a widow. They're sharing their actual grief and trauma while you're just making shit up for attention. My voice was rising. I could hear it happening, but couldn't stop it. My father held up his hand. David, calm down. I know it looks bad, but it's not hurting anyone. Not hurting anyone? Mom, these people are going through real loss, real pain, and you're exploiting that for what? Sympathy? Entertainment? You don't understand, my mother said quietly. Her voice had changed, gone small and wounded. You don't know what it's like to feel invisible, to spend 40 years being someone's wife, someone's mother, and lose yourself completely. In that group, people see me, they value me, they listen. Because they think you're suffering. It's not real, Mom. None of it is real. She stood up abruptly. This conversation is over. I'm not defending myself to you. What I do with my time is my business. It's fraud, Mom. It's lying. And it's fucking insane. Watch your language in my house, my father said sharply. Your house? You're supposed to be dead. The absurdity of it hit me again. I was arguing with my dead father about my mother's fake grief. I stood up. I need to leave. I need to think about this. My mother's face had gone hard. You're not going to tell anyone, are you? Embarrass us? Embarrass you? You've been doing that yourself for 6 months. I grabbed my keys and walked out, drove home in a fog. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I'd gone to drop off wine for book club and discovered my mother was living an elaborate double life, pretending to be a widow while my father sat at home watching game shows. When I got to my condo, I poured myself a whiskey and sat on my couch trying to process. Then I did what any reasonable person would do when faced with incomprehensible family drama. I started Googling. Munchausen syndrome came up first, factitious disorder where people feign illness or trauma for attention. But my mother wasn't claiming to be sick. She was claiming my father was dead. I dug deeper, found something called pathological lying or pseudologia fantastica. People who compulsively lie, often creating elaborate false narratives. The lies can become so extensive they start to believe them themselves. I thought about my mother's face. The way she'd told those women about waking up to an empty bed, pouring coffee for a dead husband. She'd seemed genuinely emotional. Had she started believing her own lie? My phone rang at 10:30 p.m. My father. I almost didn't answer. David, we need to talk about this rationally. Rationally? Dad, there's nothing rational about any of this. Your mother is upset. She's worried you're going to cause problems. I'm going to cause problems? She's been pretending you're dead for half a year. I know it's unusual. Unusual? It's batshit crazy. Silence on the other end. Then, don't do anything rash. Give us a few days to figure this out. Figure what out? How to keep lying? Just, please, don't make this worse. He hung up. I sat there with the phone in my hand, whiskey burning in my stomach, and made a decision. I needed to know exactly how deep this went. The next morning, I called in sick to work and started investigating. First stop, social media. My mother's Facebook page looked normal at first glance. Posts about recipes, library events, shared articles about gardening. But when I scrolled back 6 months, I found it. A post from April 3rd, 2024. With a broken heart, I share that my beloved husband, Robert, passed away suddenly yesterday. Thank you for all the love and support during this impossible time. 347 comments. Hundreds of people offering condolences, sharing memories, promising prayers. I felt sick, kept scrolling, more posts. Grief is strange. Some days I can barely get out of bed. Finding strength in community, grateful for the grief support group that's helping me heal. 6 months without him, the pain doesn't get easier, just different. Each post had dozens of sympathetic responses. People I didn't recognize saying things like, "You're so brave," and "Robert would be so proud of how strong you're being." I screenshot everything. Then I checked her Instagram. Similar posts, similar responses. Then I found something that made my blood run cold. A GoFundMe page. Help Patricia through her loss, created by someone named Barbara Whitfield, on April 5th, 2 days after my mother's Facebook announcement. The description read, "Our dear friend Patricia recently lost her husband Robert unexpectedly. As she navigates this difficult time, she's facing unexpected funeral expenses and the challenge of managing on a single income after 39 years of marriage. Any contribution, no matter how small, would help ease her burden." The goal was $15,000. The amount raised, $18,340. $18,340 donated by 127 people who believed my mother was a grieving widow in financial distress. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped my phone. This wasn't just lying for attention anymore. This was fraud, actual, prosecutable fraud. I called my father. He answered on the first ring. "Did you know about the GoFundMe?" I asked without preamble. Silence. "Dad, did you know people donated over $18,000 because they thought you were dead?" "Your mother handles her own accounts." "That's not an answer." "I didn't know the specific amount." "But you knew she was collecting money?" More silence. "Jesus Christ, Dad. This isn't just lying anymore. This is fraud. This is illegal." "It's not fraud. People volunteered to give that money. They gave it under false pretenses. They think she's a widow struggling financially. You guys own your house outright. You have pensions. You're not struggling." "David, I really think you should let this go." "Let it go? Dad, she's committed a felony." "She's your mother. Are you really going to destroy her over this?" The question hung in the air. Was I? I thought about my mother, who'd taught me to read, who'd come to every school play, who'd been disappointed when I'd chosen software engineering over law school, but supported me anyway. Was I willing to turn her in? "I need to think," I said. I hung up. I spent that whole day in my condo pacing, researching, trying to figure out what to do. By evening, I'd made a list of everyone who needed to know. The grief support group. The people who donated to the GoFundMe. The police, probably. But every time I thought about actually doing it, about exposing my mother, I felt sick. She'd raised me. She'd been a good mother, mostly. Was I really going to destroy her life over this? Then I thought about Donna Kleinfeld, crying on her porch as she told me how sorry she was for my loss. About the women in that support group, sharing their real grief while my mother performed fake trauma. About the 127 people who'd given money they probably couldn't spare to help someone who didn't need it. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Is this David Lansing? A woman's voice, unfamiliar. Yes, who's this? My name is Rita Kowalski. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I facilitate the grief support group your mother attends. I wanted to reach out because Donna mentioned you stopped by last night and seemed upset. My stomach dropped. She told you? She's concerned about you, about your grieving process. She thought it might help if we talked. This was surreal. This woman thought she was counseling me through grief for my living father. I appreciate that, I said carefully. But I'm okay. Grief isn't something we're ever just okay with, David. It's a process. Your mother mentioned you've been in denial, having trouble accepting your father's death. That's very normal. My mother had told them I was in denial about my dead father. I wanted to scream. Actually, Rita, I need to tell you something. Of course, that's why I'm calling. My father isn't dead. Silence. Long, heavy silence. I'm sorry? My father, Robert Lansing, he's alive. I had breakfast with him yesterday morning. My mother has been lying to your support group for 6 months. David, I understand this is difficult, but denial. It's not denial. My father is sitting in his house right now watching TV. My mother has been pretending to be a widow. She's been lying to all of you. More silence. Then, that's a very serious accusation. It's the truth. She's created an entire false narrative about his death. There was no heart attack, no funeral, no grief. It's all a lie. Why would she do that? I don't know. Attention? Sympathy? You'd have to ask her. Rita's voice had gone cold, professional. Mr. Lansing, if you're experiencing a mental health crisis, I'm not. I'm completely sane. And I can prove what I'm saying. My father is alive. He'll answer the phone right now if you call him. I don't think that's appropriate. What's not appropriate is my mother defrauding your support group and everyone who donated to her GoFundMe campaign. That landed. I could hear Rita's sharp intake of breath. GoFundMe campaign? I explained about the fundraiser, the $18,340. Rita listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. If what you're saying is true, this is a very serious matter. But I have to tell you, your mother has been a valued member of our group for 6 months. She's shared deeply personal experiences. She's supported others through their grief. This doesn't sound like her at all. I'm not making this up. Check my father's Facebook. He's alive and posting. Or better yet, call my parents' home number. He'll answer. I'm going to need to discuss this with Donna and the other group facilitators. We have protocols for situations like this. What situations? Fake dead husbands? Suspected fraud. If you're willing to provide evidence, I'll provide whatever you need. Just get my mother out of that group before she damages anyone else. We ended the call with Rita promising to investigate. I didn't feel good about it. Felt like I'd just betrayed my mother. But what choice did I have? Let her keep lying? Keep defrauding people? That evening, my mother called. What did you do? Her voice was shaking with rage. Rita Kowalski just called me with the most ridiculous accusations. She said you told her your father was alive, that I've been lying. Do you have any idea what you've done? I told her the truth, Mom. The truth? You've destroyed me. These women are my friends, my support system, and you've turned them against me. You turned them against yourself by lying for 6 months. I was getting help, real help. That group was the only place I felt seen and valued. Because you were lying to them. They weren't valuing you, Mom. They were valuing a character you created. She was crying now. You don't understand. You've never understood. You're just like your father, cold, practical. You don't see people's hearts. I see that you committed fraud, that you took money from people under false pretenses. That's a crime, Mom. I'm your mother. How can you do this to me? How can you do this to Dad? To me? To all those people who trusted you? She hung up. 10 minutes later, my father called. We need to meet, tomorrow morning. The 3 of us and a lawyer. A lawyer? Your mother is terrified you're going to press charges. We need to figure out how to contain this. Contain. Like it was a spill, a mess to clean up. Not fraud, not betrayal. Just an inconvenient situation. Fine, I said. Tomorrow. We met at a law office in downtown Chicago. The attorney was named Leonard Shapiro, 62 years old, 35 years practicing family law and white-collar crime defense. He had the kind of face that had seen everything and been surprised by nothing. Let me make sure I understand, Leonard said, looking at my mother over steepled fingers. You've been attending a grief support group for 6 months, telling the participants your husband died of a heart attack, when in fact he's alive and well. It was a misunderstanding that spiraled, my mother said. She'd regained her composure, dressed in a conservative navy suit, hair perfect, playing the role of respectable woman caught in unfortunate circumstances. A misunderstanding? I said. You posted on Facebook that Dad died. You collected $18,000 in donations. You've been lying for half a year. Leonard held up a hand. David, I understand you're upset, but right now, we need to focus on legal exposure. He turned back to my mother. The GoFundMe campaign is the primary concern. Did you create it? No, a friend created it. Did you know about it? Yes. Did you accept the funds? Yes. Did you use the funds? My mother hesitated. Some of it. For what purpose? Various expenses, home repairs, a vacation. Not funeral costs or widow-related expenses? No. Leonard made notes. That's fraud. Wire fraud? Specifically, since the donations came through an electronic platform. Federal crime. Potential prison time. My father, who'd been silent until now, spoke up. What are our options? Realistically, return all the money immediately, close the GoFundMe, issue a public apology, pray no one presses charges. And if they do press charges, then we're looking at criminal prosecution. Best case scenario, probation and restitution. Worst case, federal prison. My mother went pale. Prison? You defrauded over 100 people out of nearly $20,000. That's serious, Patricia. I didn't mean to. It just happened. That's not a legal defense. Leonard looked at me. David, what's your intention here? Everyone turned to look at me. My mother's eyes were red, pleading. My father's face was carefully blank. I want the money returned, I said. All of it. And I want her to tell the truth to the grief support group. No more lies. That's reasonable, Leonard said. Patricia? My mother nodded, defeated. Okay. We spent the next 2 hours working out details. My mother would post on Facebook that there had been a misunderstanding, that my father was actually alive, that she deeply apologized for any confusion. The GoFundMe would be shut down and all funds returned with interest. She would write a letter to the grief support group explaining and apologizing. It seemed straightforward, clean, contained. I should have known it wouldn't be that simple. My mother posted the Facebook confession that night. I need to share something difficult. Due to severe depression and mental health struggles, I posted incorrect information about my husband's passing. Robert is alive and well. I'm deeply sorry for any confusion or pain this caused. I'm seeking professional help. All donations will be returned immediately. The comments came fast and furious. Confusion, anger, people demanding explanations. One woman commented, "You let me believe you buried your husband when mine just died? You let me cry with you? What kind of monster are you?" The post was shared 89 times in the first hour. Screenshots circulated. By morning, it had been picked up by a local news blogger who ran a story. Evanston woman faked husband's death, collected thousands in donations. The story went viral locally. News stations picked it up. My mother's name and photo were everywhere. Rita Kowalski, the grief group facilitator, gave an interview. We're devastated. Our support group is built on trust and shared experience. To learn that one of our members was exploiting that trust for attention and money is heartbreaking. Donna Kleinfeld, who I'd met at her door, also spoke to reporters. I feel violated. I shared my deepest pain with Patricia. I held her while she cried about losing Robert, and he was alive the whole time. It's sick. The story grew. National outlets picked it up. Woman scams grief support group. Fake widow collected $18K in donations. My mother's Facebook, Instagram, everything went private. But the damage was done. Screenshots of her grief posts circulated. People found old photos of her and my father together, proof he'd been alive the whole time. The GoFundMe refunds started processing, but people were angry. Several threatened legal action. The fraud, they said, wasn't just about money. It was about emotional manipulation, about exploiting real grief for sympathy. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters wanted my side of the story. Friends and family wanted to know what was happening. Colleagues at work had seen the news. I took a leave of absence. Couldn't focus. Couldn't explain to people that yes, my mother had faked my father's death, and yes, she was currently the most hated person in the Chicago area. 5 days after the story broke, my father called. Your mother's in the hospital. My heart stopped. What happened? She took pills, tried to kill herself. I found her in time. I drove to Northwestern Memorial Hospital in a daze. Found my father in the ICU waiting room, looking 20 years older than he had a week ago. How is she? Stable. They pumped her stomach. She'll be okay physically. And mentally? He shrugged, exhausted. They're transferring her to the psychiatric unit. Mandatory 72-hour hold. I sat next to him. We didn't talk for a long time. Finally, he said, "This is your fault." My fault? You exposed her. You couldn't just let it go. Now look what's happened. She exposed herself, Dad. She committed fraud. She lied to hundreds of people. I just told the truth. The truth destroyed her. The lies were destroying other people. He stood up. I don't want to talk to you right now. You should go. I left. Drove home. Felt hollowed out. Empty. Had I destroyed my mother? Or had she destroyed herself? 3 days later, my mother was released to an inpatient psychiatric facility. Diagnosis: major depressive disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. Factitious disorder imposed on self. The psychiatrist, Dr. Angela Reeves, 38 years old, 15 years practicing psychiatry, explained it to me over the phone. Your mother has been struggling with feelings of invisibility and low self-worth for years. The grief support group gave her attention and validation she craved. When she received that positive reinforcement, it created a feedback loop. She needed more attention, created more elaborate lies, got more validation. It spiraled. Is she going to be okay? With treatment, possibly, but she has significant work to do, and there may be legal consequences she'll have to face. The legal consequences came 2 weeks later. The FBI opened an investigation into wire fraud. Several donors filed a class action lawsuit. The grief support group was cooperating with prosecutors. Leonard Shapiro called with updates. They're offering a plea deal. Admit to wire fraud, pay full restitution plus penalties, 5 years probation, mandatory psychiatric treatment, no prison time if she complies. And if she doesn't take it? Trial, possible federal prison. I'd advise taking the deal. My mother took the deal. Pled guilty to 1 count of wire fraud in federal court. The judge, Honorable Diana Foster, 22 years on the bench, was not sympathetic. Mrs. Lansing, you exploited people's grief for personal gain and attention. You violated the trust of a community built to help people through their darkest moments. While I'm satisfied that you're receiving psychiatric treatment, I want to be clear. There are consequences for your actions. You will pay $25,000 in restitution and penalties. You will complete 5 years of supervised probation. You will perform 500 hours of community service. And you will publicly apologize to every member of that support group and every donor to the GoFundMe campaign. Do you understand? My mother, small and broken in front of the judge, nodded. Yes, Your Honor. The public apology was published in the Chicago Tribune, the Sun-Times, and read aloud at a grief support group meeting she was not allowed to attend. I, Patricia Lansing, deeply apologize for my actions. I lied about my husband's death. I accepted donations under false pretenses. I exploited the grief and kindness of good people for my own selfish needs. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I'm seeking help. I hope one day to make amends, though I know many will never forgive me. I understand and accept that. The response was mixed. Some people accepted the apology, most didn't. The local grief support community blacklisted her. The library where she volunteered quietly asked her not to return. Her friends stopped calling. She became, in many ways, the invisible woman she'd always claimed to be. Except now it was real. My relationship with my parents changed fundamentally. My father blamed me for months. We barely spoke. Then, slowly, he started to understand, started to see that what my mother had done was wrong, that enabling it had been wrong. We're rebuilding. Carefully. My mother and I don't talk much. She's in intensive therapy 3 times a week, on medication, working through decades of self-worth issues and attention-seeking behavior. She sends me emails sometimes, apologizing, explaining, hoping I'll understand. I'm trying. But trust, once broken this completely, doesn't repair quickly. 6 months after everything imploded, I was having coffee with a colleague who asked how my family was doing. Complicated, I said. She laughed. Isn't everyone's? Mine's more complicated than most. I told her a condensed version of the story. Her jaw dropped. Your mom faked your dad's death? For 6 months? That's insane. Yeah. What made you turn her in? That must have been brutal. I thought about it. About standing in Donna Kleinfeld's hallway, hearing my mother perform grief while my father watched game shows. About the 127 people who donated money they could probably barely afford. About Rita Kowalski's voice saying, if what you're saying is true, this is a very serious matter. She was hurting people, I said finally. Real people who were really grieving. And someone needed to stop it, even if that someone was her son. Do you regret it? Did I? I thought about my mother in the psychiatric hospital, about my father's accusation that I'd destroyed her, about the headlines and the hatred and the fallout. No, I said. I regret that it happened. I regret that she did it. But I don't regret telling the truth. Because here's what I learned. Sometimes the people who raised you, who loved you, who you're supposed to protect, become people you need to protect others from. Sometimes doing the right thing means betraying the people you love. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's destruction of themselves and others. A year later, my mother completed her community service and is halfway through probation. She's working part-time at a call center. Lives quietly, attends therapy, stays off social media. My father retired from enabling her. Goes to Al-Anon meetings for families of people with mental health issues. They're still married somehow. Working through it. I see them occasionally. Holidays, birthdays. It's strained but survivable. Last month, I got a letter from Donna Kleinfeld, the woman who'd cried on her porch, telling me how sorry she was for my loss. Dear David, I wanted to reach out because I've been thinking about you, about how difficult that night must have been, discovering your mother's lies. I was angry at first, felt betrayed and used, but my therapist helped me see that you were a victim too. You lost the mother you thought you had. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I'm sorry you had to make the choice to expose her. That couldn't have been easy. I hope you're doing well. I hope you know you did the right thing even though it was hard. Thank you for telling the truth. It hurt, but it was necessary. Wishing you peace, Donna. I read that letter 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer with all the other documentation from that nightmare. Evidence that sometimes the hardest truths are the ones that set everyone free. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe and like to not miss the next story.